Okay.
That's
there's
weird.
very loud music.
That's weird. No idea what that was. Anyway, I've muted a media source, which that might have been. Anyway, hi everyone, and welcome to a belated seal of approval. Sorry about the bit of boomerism that was kind of going on and at the side, because not really too sure how to properly use what's it called?
OBS.
Yes, Streamlabs OBS. So I would normally use OBS just to record my videos back when I was using a webcam, but I would never use the streaming setup for it. So I used this when so I used all this when I tried to do that gaming stream a few months ago now. You know, the thing stream, the trigger warning game, the problematic game, that card game. So like that kind of worked. But the reason why we were using this this week rather than the usual StreamYards is because Short Fat Otaku was
Supposed to be here. He was here. I swear he was here like 2 minutes ago.
Like
I feel like a kid who's just like, no, my uncle is Santa Claus. See, I'll bring him to class, and then he never shows up. She's like, no, he was here. He was here. I swear he was here. I swear. How are our volumes, by the way? How's my volume compared to Rose's?
Well, I'll need to. Can people in the chat let us know if the audio is okay? It seems okay from the mixer on here, but again, like all of this is kind of new to me, so I can't really say one way or another. I don't know. Could someone in the chat say something? Volume's good. Right. Okay, cool.
I think I'm maybe a teeny bit quiet compared to you. Sorry, I'm trying to listen to both right now. Maybe up your Windows volume. It's just a fraction though. It's quite close.
Yeah, Scrump is a little bit quieter compared to you.
Okay. Okay. So
maybe up me in Discord then.
No, I've upped it. It should be fine.
Okay.
It should be
That's
fine.
good.
Yeah. So yeah, Dev was supposed to be joining us. This is the fourth time. This is a
fifth. This is like the fifth time.
Oh my god.
No, it's the fourth. Sorry.
It's the fourth.
You're right. It's the fourth.
This is genuinely a running joke now. This is genuinely a running joke. I'm promising you guys like all these great guests, and you know we've had like Blair White and Darren Grimes, and
yes,
you know like we've had some pretty big names, but clearly not good enough for Short Fat Otaku. But the show must go on again.
I think he's probably had. He does occasionally have like internet outages or power outages because of where he is in Canada.
Yeah.
So it is most likely something like that he can't control.
I mean, to be fair, like every time we try and get him on, it isn't so much that he stands us up. It's more that there is a reason why. Like there was that time when he wasn't able to use StreamYard. And then there was a time when like I think all the internet in his area had gone down. But then all the internet in your area had gone down at the same time, which was really weird.
You'll just have to deal with me instead of Dev then.
Yeah.
I had like an internet outage and a power outage in one night. I think someone had goofed doing some roadwork somewhere. Is what happened to me.
Put a shovel through the entire internet link to you.
Yeah, I think they put a shovel through like 2 lines or something because I had an internet outage and then rapidly after that I had a short power outage. So thank you UK infrastructure. You're all very good.
But the show must go on anyway. We're joining us this week is Scrump. Scrump is joining us. So how are you, Scrump?
I'm good. I'm here consistently now. I've only missed one show. Because of infrastructure problems, but I'm here. I'm definitely here. Here is where I am.
And our special guest this week is returning guest Tailed Feature. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you very much. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I kind of feel like I'm getting a bit of a cold coming on, even though I've barely been out over the last couple of weeks. What with everyone wearing face nappies. So, like, I don't know how I might have potentially caught something, but I'm kind of starting to feel like I might be coming down with something, which is a little bit crap.
Oh no, the coof.
Yeah,
A lot of it's psychological with cold and stuff, isn't it?
yeah, I genuinely think a lot of it is. And the thing is, I'm sure I've had COVID. Like, I genuinely am sure that I had it, because it was at the end of February last year, because I was supposed to be going to, like, Sargon and Dunk's events, as they did one just before lockdown. I was going to go to that, but I was really, really ill. And so I just ended up not going, and I had, like, the worst cough I've ever had. Like, I normally get bad coughs, but this was, like, proper whooping cough kind of thing.
Whooping cough.
Well, it wasn't literally whooping cough, but, you know, it was...
No, it's the joke. Whooping cough. It's the one of the COVID ones.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Sheldon sneeze, you know?
God damn it. But yeah, so, like, I hope it's not the coup, although apparently you can get reinfected. And also, Tailed Not So Obvious is telling you to say more words. So why don't you tell us about your holiday?
Okay. My holiday is that the topic? Of
My
tonight?
Holiday by Tailed Feature.
My Holiday by Tailed Feature. Yes. I just got back from being right up in the Highlands yesterday. I was up there for just about a week. Did some hiking, made some videos and stuff like that. So on my second channel, I'll probably upload them. Yeah, it was quite nice. It was just nice to get away and not really have to deal with people and internet. So it was pretty good. Pretty good.
It is, like, I still need to do a holiday where I literally just have nothing to do with the outside world. Like, you know, completely go internet free. Like I was saying before, the closest I've ever come to doing that was when I went to China, because I was going to take advantage of the firewall and just kind of use that as an excuse to never use Twitter or Facebook. But then soon after I landed in Beijing, my connecting flight to Guangzhou, basically I missed it because Beijing airport is awful and the security there are a nightmare to kind of go through. Although, having said that, one guy did let me completely go into some sort of, like, off-limits area, but I think that was because it was Western privilege, which is even weirder when you consider how, like, anti-Western China is. But anyway, so long story short, I ended up in a really shit hotel, and so I was like, I'm sick of this, I'm actually using the internet. But enough about internet, because we're watching this on the internet.
There we go. Have a thing.
It's time. It's time once again for probably, you know, the thing everyone's been waiting for all week, because there's been a lot going on.
There has been a lot going on, good lord.
And there they are. The Seals of News. They're back. And so they come with 3 stories. 3 big, but these are 3 meaty stories. You know, like these are prime stories. And so
Dev has not abandoned us.
Is he coming?
He's coming.
Oh my god.
And now so am I.
A miracle.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Oh my god, like this is it true? Are we actually getting Devon?
We are, and I've told him to make up for it by shilling.
Ah.
Yeah, he's just joining in a moment. He's being very very apologetic. He's not being apologetic at all.
No.
Which is strange for a Canadian.
I know. He's the least apologetic Canadian I know, eh?
Eh. But we have the seals. We have the seals of news.
I will say I actually did try redoing the autumn seals of news, but every time I tried it, they turned out worse. I actually think this is the best I can do. So that's the autumn seals of news, and I'm afraid they're going to be staying like that until I have some sort of artistic inspiration.
Until we get the Christmas seals of news.
I couldn't tell if you're saying the autumn or the awesome seals of news.
They're both. They're the awesome autumn seals of news. Now, I think when we get closer to Halloween, I'm going to make the spooky seals of news.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're quite close to Halloween, so we need the spooky seals of news next week.
I will make those for next week, and I will make the spooky seals of news.
Yes. I mean, they can't be too frightening because they're just harmless seals.
Oh, I said okay, spoopy, not spooky. Then
There we
okay,
go.
There's a difference.
They're not going to be holding axes and like dripping with blood.
No,
or anything
it's not going to be like.
Clan
Have any of
Hood.
you guys played Phantasmophobia or whatever it's called? The VR ghost like hunting game.
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
I've not played it either, but a friend of mine was telling me about it. It actually sounds really good. So I'm hoping to play that round about Halloween.
Yeah, I still need to get a Halloween film list, like decent horror films. A list of decent horror films. Like my friend Chloe is like, she runs a YouTube channel dedicated to horror films, and I really do need to ask her like, what exactly to watch, because so far my Halloween playlist is just things like Hocus Pocus and Spooky Buddies. Although Spooky Buddies is incredible. So that is, it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking. Also on this, let me just kind of like, if you subscribe to the channel or you send in a super chat, it should do something special. And so if anyone wants to send in any super chats,
send money blocks, please.
No, it's just there'll be something, and people will be like, "Wow, that's amazing! That was totally worth the shilling." So, does anyone want to pick a seal of news?
Ah, Dev's here. Since Dev, you've just arrived.
Oh my God, he's here!
I'm afraid there's no screen sharing.
He's here.
I'll put it. Yeah, make sure you're all running the stream just with the audio off, because we're having to be a bit jank today to accommodate Dev.
Yeah.
Oh, am I being accommodated?
Yes. Because,
Absolutely.
Well, this is yeah. So like, I don't usually use Streamlabs, but after. Sorry.
What?
So someone just subscribed, and all of a sudden, like a little seal just made like a squealing noise. So there is that. Anyway,
Right.
yeah. So we need to remember that time when you tried to join when we were using StreamYards.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that
Oh,
program before.
Yeah.
You might want to put the layer of subscriptions above the layer of the seals of news.
Yes.
It's currently appearing behind it.
Yeah, I've moved the alert box up to the top. So,
Anyway, sorry about being late. Naomi and I were watching Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 1.
Why?
It's
Priority.
It's
Do you not
well,
realize
it ran longer than I thought it would. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
it's not great.
It's like a double length episode, isn't it?
Well, it's they're doing like an Andromeda thing with it this time. 'Cause it's in the future and the Federation's gone and we got to rebuild it. It's like, okay, ran out of ideas, eh?
Oh god, yeah, it is like the Andromeda thing. There we go. Yeah, we're getting subscribers on stream. We're getting little seals. Thanks, guys. By the way, that is very cool.
I can see we just had a super chat from Yiz saying, "Show me this new super chat surprise," but it's not come through onto here yet, so I've no idea what's going on. We're getting subscribers, but not super. Oh, there
Here,
we go.
I'll subscribe. Boom.
There we go.
Aha. There we go.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I've actually had some problems with Streamlabs
Dev's really loud
showing
apparently,
donations
so you
as
might
well.
You might want to turn
sorry.
it down in Discord.
I can turn myself down.
No, it's not you. It's not. You're not loud for me.
Okay.
Balance, but it just Rose balancing on the audio. Just turn him down in Discord, I'd say.
There we go. How about that?
Sorry.
Is that right? Yep.
Do I sound good now?
Yeah, we're just adjusting audios on the fly, guys. Here, so
Yeah, like
Well-
do not be disturbed.
there is a lot of boomerism going on in the stream. Like, I mean,
And it's
this
not
is
coming
like
from
this
me
is
for
the
a change.
We are having the full SFO experience here.
Yes.
Boomerism,
Absolute
lateness, it's,
absolute
glorious.
jankiest stream I've ever done. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind using this like more in the future, but I've got to get good at it. Like, because I want to start doing stuff on Twitch. Like just kind of stream games with people in the Discord. But like at the moment, I'm terrible at this. But anyway,
A lot of people are saying they like the subscription noise though, so that's a win.
Yes.
Deb, just say something again. We need to balance your audios.
What's
Say a
up?
thing. There we go.
Wait. Hey, Scrump.
What?
Scrump.
No,
Would you like to get this channel demonetized as well?
no, we already referenced that last week anyway.
I'm still surprised this channel hasn't been demonetized thanks to Scrump.
I do have a bad habit of accidentally dropping the gamer words.
Yes.
But yes, Dev, do you want to pick a seal of news?
Yes.
Oh, I have to look at the seals and pick one, I guess. Is that how it works?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is the Biden seal, the lockdown seal, and the preference seal.
We've only got 3 main topics this week because they are so meaty. They are big, meaty topics.
Yes.
You know, like big meaty, like a big meaty seal.
Like to these seals, these topics are basically tuna. So
Well, do you want to talk about preference? I guess we can start there.
Yeah,
We'll start off with preference. Yeah.
So preference. So why do you think that there is a story on preference?
Well, surely it's because of the redefinition of sexual preference, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. So so let me just again, I'm just going over a bit of boomerism here. Just want to make sure that I get like this is just how janky these transitions are. So you just take off the seals of news and they just bring up that. For people who might not really know, Amy Coney Barrett, when she was doing the the hearings before taking her on, she described she was asked about discrimination. She didn't just said, I have never discriminated against anyone for their sexual preference. So this has caused it was entirely predictable. First of all, everything which happens about this is 100% predictable, but they want to pin anything they can on Amy as being offensive. You know, they did it with her religion, they did it with her kids because she's adopted 2 black children, and so now they've got their gay card. So they've already had the race and the religion. I'm gonna have to turn that down. But yeah, so they've already done the race, they've already done religion, and so now they've got the gay card. And so now her saying something is a sexual preference is considered to be homophobic. And this is despite a lot of outlets, a lot of gay outlets in recent weeks even have used the phrase preference. A lot of them have.
Yeah, it's very interchangeable with sexual orientation. I'm deep into this like you are, Dev, and like you are, Rose. And I've never ever heard anyone anywhere, even on the darkest corners of Tumblr, saying that sexual preference is an offensive term.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. This is the first time I've ever heard that.
Right, I want to have a quick look and just see whether our good friends at Pink News, how often they've used the phrase preference.
Oh God, I do recall looking up. You guys remember who Leanna Kay is from the Gamergate days?
Yes, I do remember who Leanna Kay is. Yes,
she did a big thing about how sexual preference is obviously a bigoted term, and yet people went through her Twitter feed, her past tweets, and she's used it pretty commonly.
Everybody
over the past
does.
5 years.
It's not. Term.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, they redefine words so regularly, no one can actually keep up. I mean, I know obviously this has been done for political gain, but there's plenty of people that have come out and said that some word is problematic or something that wasn't problematic even a year ago.
Yeah,
it's just a constant renewing of language. And no one's ever gonna be pure enough for it anyway. It's just gonna be a constant thing.
It's been a hard cut though. It's been a hard, not offensive, a day later. I think it's the fastest we've seen it happen, and it's all because of this. What is his name? It's a Democratic senator called Hirono. She said that saying that Amy Coney Barrett saying preference was offensive, and it's I think it's because they were struggling to pull her up on anything.
Yes.
It was a real barrel scraper. They couldn't find anything to pull her up on, so they made something up. And the thing is, it's gone from the imagination of a Democratic senator to the check marks on Twitter to the journalists in all the outlets, to the dictionary within a day.
Yes.
Within a day, we have seen the definition of a term redefined. People overuse the whole 1984 thing, but this is quite literally like the plot of 1984.
Yeah, it's
the changing agenda of the ruling party would be used on the fly to change the meaning of words.
Well, yeah, Oceania has never been at war. Oceania has always been at war at East Asia, I should say. It's literally just like that. And all of a sudden, we get in these really protectionist narratives about, saying that something is a preference is like saying it's a choice. Like, well, no. If you prefer something, you just prefer it. You don't choose to prefer something. And like in the defense of the people who now claim it as a derogatory phrase, these are it hasn't even been that long since having some sort of genital preference was considered to be transphobic. So, like, for example, if you preferred penis and you're a lesbian, then that preference is considered transphobic because you're excluding...
lesbians who prefer penises?
No, I meant if you're a lesbian and you don't like penises. Sorry.
And if you're a straight person who doesn't date trans people, you're transphobic.
Basically, yeah. When I've seen them use the phrase that preferences as being bigoted, that's the only real way in which I've seen it used in public. Simply about whether or not people want to sleep with trans people. It's only now.
It applies to everything.
Yeah, it's only now that it's just going to apply to everything.
It's like, wait,
okay,
this word is offensive. Always has been.
Well, there's two angles here, right? Like the first angle is that they actually have decided that the concept of preference itself is some form of bigotry, which is ridiculous. And I think the second, and probably the one that's actually true, is that they just needed something to throw at her and they chose this randomly.
Yes.
They don't actually have any strong opinion on the idea of what a preference is. They just had to throw something at her just because they had to block it somehow.
Yeah.
I think it was GLAAD was one of the first people to come out with this. They said the correct term is sexual orientation. Sexual preference is a term often used by anti-LGBTQ activists to imply that sexual orientation is a choice.
Yes.
Again, I've never heard anything. I've done searches on Twitter. I've done searches on Google. There's not chatter from the check marks about sexual preference, the term being offensive until a day ago.
Yeah.
Usually it's like a niche Tumblr theory that gets brought into the mainstream by someone. But this wasn't even a niche Tumblr theory beforehand. This is like whole cloth, complete.
Yes. Yeah, and it's you don't even have that kind of like warming up phase to be like, oh, by the way, this term is a little bit problematic before you get the full on, oh my god, she's so homophobic because she used it. There was none of that. They went from 0 to 100. And like that in itself is quite interesting and the amount of people who will just willingly toe the line with this now, simply because ACB used sexual preference. Simply for that reason, that is now going to that's kind of locked in now as a homophobic slur.
I mean,
that's never going to change.
It's the same principle of people saying people of color versus colored people.
Yes,
it's the same principle, but dialed up to 11 in terms of how quickly it became an issue or an alleged issue. It's just a non-controversy, really, that's just been blown out of proportion.
It reminds me a lot of the whole change. Like, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago where it became socially unacceptable to say transsexual. You couldn't say that anymore.
Yes.
It's like, excuse me, transsexual is a transphobic term. You have to say transgender. But before that point, they'd be used interchangeably. And that almost seemed to happen overnight as well.
Yeah, that was more gradual. That's a gradual takeover from within the community. The reason why that, like, the argument from within the community as to why that became transphobic to say transsexual is because you would get a lot of like red top newspapers who would use phrase like transsexual, and it would be, especially in like the early to mid 2000s, whenever they would do stories on trans people, it would either be a absolutely stunning trans woman, and the story is like, I can't believe she used to be a man, or it would just be like an absolute cave troll. Like I remember being in hospital in Swansea years ago when I was in uni, and I looked at a newspaper, I think it was The Sun, and the headline was Trannysaurus, and it was
About that.
And so it was about a trucker.
Trannysaurus, god damn it.
Yeah, it was about a trucker who became a trans woman, and like she didn't look like she didn't really pass, but like I think it was like in it was an interview that they did with her. First of all, it was literally just, oh, this trucker is now a woman. And it's like that's not really a story in and of itself. And like he's got a big picture of her like grinning for the camera. So like this, so like she had like spoke with The Sun about all of this, and like it was literally just, oh god damn it, that seal like actually is quite distracting. But yeah, so what was I saying? The seal interrupted my train of thought.
You're talking about Trannysaurus.
The Trannysaurus, yes. But yeah, the story of the Trannysaurus was literally that she used to be a trucker. Like that was it. But they were the kind of stories that would have the word like transsexual applied to it. And so that was kind of the thing which activists ran with, and they said, oh, these articles use this word, so it's a bit of a dog whistle. Again, like, interesting thing about dog whistles is that the left seems to be the only ones to hear them.
And if we really lived in this transphobic, homophobic society, why would we need to dog whistle in the first place?
Well, yeah.
Well, as a thing, if you're going to be overt with it, you get banned from every single platform. Like we already live in a society that is intolerant of overt, quote unquote, even jokes about racism. So I don't understand. Like that's where the whole dog whistle microaggression thing exists. It's because we live in a non-racist society, and they have to invent something it's like the whole OK symbol. Yes. Again, though, this. I think they've backfired with this, though. I think going forward, there's going to be some hilarious gaffes of lefties saying sexual preference because it's so ingrained in their vernacular and so ingrained in everyone's vernacular. And they're going to start self-flagellating for it. It's a language game that's going to start turning on itself again. We see that a lot with the purity spiraling. And this is, again, been a big red pill for a lot of people watching it. They're like, this is ridiculous. I think it's finally reached the ridiculousness point for a lot of like normies who weren't paying attention. So I think in the end, really, it's kind of a win, honestly, them doing this. The fact that Merriam-Webster is changing things is nothing new. They did it with their definition of racism recently. They're overtly being a woke dictionary and trying to erase the past. But I don't think they'll succeed. I think it's just going to show as a glaring point to people how terrible things have got. Yeah.
I mean, that's why people kind of jumped out at this, because it's only changed, in the last 24 hours. And so, like, that kind of watching it in real time, I think, is going to have switched on a lot of people as to how, even, like, the tamest phrase can just flip. And there's probably I do think there's going to be more instances like this until people actually wake up and see what is actually happening. And it is a policing of language and allowing one side to set exactly what vocabulary we can use. And I agree with Scrump that references to 1984 are used so often, and it's just simply everything is just compared to 1984. But I've got to bring 1984 into this because it's entirely about the use of language, and one of the ways in which you stop dissent is by removing the language that one can use to dissent against it. I mean.
The insidious thing about it is like, oh, you used this term that we have recently redefined, and so we actually, when you use that phrase, we know what you really meant by it. That's the thing that gets me. Is and at the same time, these are the people that use or they switch between the colloquial definition of words and the socially just definition of words on a whim.
Yes.
Because as soon as they're talking about anti-racism, for example, obviously the person on the street hears anti-racist, they go, "Oh, that sounds reasonable to me. It means not being a racist.
Yes.
Therefore, I am an anti-racist." But what they actually mean when they say that means something entirely different.
Yes, like Antifa.
Exactly, yeah. It's they use all these terms that you couldn't possibly argue against in their colloquial definition, but they use them to mean something else.
Yeah.
And they routinely switch between them just to sort of hide what they're doing and to muddy the waters, and it makes it very, very difficult to actually have discussions and debates about this kind of thing. Not that they want you to do that anyway, but the whole thing is they're like, we know what you meant by that. You said this thing, and we can read your mind, and this is what you really meant by saying that. And it's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put an example. Here's D-Ray, Jack's alleged gay lover, in talking about race-based sexual preference. And here's, is he a homophobe? Talking about sexual, again, he uses the term sexual preference there.
Well, while you guys were talking, I decided to look this up because I remember this from taking psychology when I was in university. In psychology, sexual preference and sexual orientation are two different things. They're both valid terms for two separate phenomena.
Right. So what's the difference?
Well, to use Scrump as an obvious example, okay?
Hey, hey! I don't like where this is going.
Scrump's sexual orientation would actually be straight, but his sexual preference would be for trans women. If that makes sense.
Okay.
That's only true if traps are not gay.
Well, we're talking psychologically. We're not getting into the philosophy of it. But basically, sexual orientation is on the Kinsey scale from 0 to 7, and then sexual preference is once you've been placed on that scale, the range of things that you like, which can include fetishes, it can include race, it can include trans women. There's a bunch of things it can include. So it's actually a different phenomenon entirely.
So, like, saying sexual orientation is more kind of binary, as it were, in that you're either really gay, straight, or bi. Whereas sexual preference, well, that opens it up to the infinite amount of things that people can be attracted to.
Again, there's a distinction within, like, psychological theory, though. I think people tend to use the two. It's the choices people make about sexual partners, and it's and the reason that they make those choices doesn't necessarily have to be, they don't choose the preference. But again, it's such a dumb thing to get offended about. But
it's obvious what she meant, and they know it, but they've decided just to pick on that particular term, as if we always knew that it was offensive.
Like, if you really want to go down the psychological rabbit hole, you have a set of preferences that come about through whatever. There's a bunch of different things that they come about through, and you can alter those through repeated choices over time. So if we're not going down the Mike Pence shock therapy route, but if you actually wanted to turn yourself gay, you probably could with enough concentrated effort, or straight as well. It would probably be very unpleasant, but basically you can adjust your own preferences by reinforcing them through choice. However, there is no way that anybody involved in this conversation is referring to that specific psychological effect. They're just being triggered.
No. And so just to kind of go back on that, so I know Sophia did a bit of digging with what various publications have said in the past with using sexual preference. So here's The Advocate, just a couple of weeks ago, with a quote about a gay film. To come from that history, to be able to now, as a director, be telling these stories about young people who are just comfortable with who they are, no matter what their sexual preference is, it's just glorious and so satisfying. So what their sexual preference is. So that was fine. That was when Kenny Ortega said it. That was fine. And then, but when they see Beto, it's a revealing moment. Or our good friends at the brilliant, completely non-partisan, award-winning website Pink News. All we want is for there to be less divisions in this society and no discrimination against people over their sexual preferences. Oh, but, it's one of the oldest homophobic dog... That's brilliant. One of the oldest homophobic dog whistles. Like, a word that has just been redefined over the last 24 hours is now one of the oldest. And there's Pink News. Pink News using one of the oldest dog whistles in the book. They used it. So according to them, according to their logic, they should have been fully aware that they were using a homophobic dog whistle when they said that last year. Because it's apparently that old, and these aren't the only ones. There is another one here. Logo. Now I'm far more attracted to men than women, but who's to say my sexual preference won't sway again? Your bi plus identity is your bi plus identity, and that bi plus identity is valid. Like bi plus. And your guide to Amy Coney Barrett's anti-LGBTQ track record. Ooh,
it's amazing. Like I said, they just changed it overnight because everyone was using it. I mean, there's a famous quote of Ruth Bader Ginsburg now saying it back in 2017. When she, one of the last times I think she could functionally talk because she's essentially been being like Febrezed by the Democratic Party for the past 3 years until her eventual inevitable death on the bench. It's so obvious to people though. That's the thing. We're gonna move on to the other extremely obvious act of disappearing.
I found something from my history in psychology. If you want to go over it real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so from avoiding heterosexual bias in language. Printed in September 1991. Okay, I had to use this for a paper. I remembered. I just had to look it up. And there's a point in this. Let me just scroll down here. Okay, the term sexual orientation is preferred to sexual preference for psychological writing and refers to sexual and affectional relationships of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and heterosexual people. The word preference suggests a degree of voluntary choice that is not necessarily reported by lesbians and gay men, and that has not been demonstrated in psychological research. So, if this has been bigoted since 1991, and we're only hearing about it now for political reasons, and all of these people have been using this bigoted term that's been bigoted for 30 fucking years, maybe there's nothing to the story.
It's also in the context of, writings in this, like academic writings about psychology on the subject of like LGBT people. It's quite niche. There's academic language you'd use in academia, but you wouldn't use in everyday life, and vice versa. It's to do with communication. But when you say sexual preference, most people take that as interchangeable with sexual orientation. Just like people generally still take like sex and gender as being interchangeable within the general population.
Yeah, it's only if you're kind of coming at this from where you have more of a stake in it that you actually care. So like your average person, or even Amy wouldn't understand, even if it was a big deal. She would never understand because she's not a part of that world, and so she would never have those conversations. And this kind of leads on to if there is such a problematic term, is really the best way of making people aware and kind of getting people on side? Is the best tactic really just to shout people down, or is it to actually inform and educate? But obviously we all know that shouting down is the strategy of the day. That's what they all care about.
I mean, the thing that annoys me is that, the people that still talk about political correctness, they say it's just about respect and being nice and all that kind of stuff. And yet changing dictionary definitions and things like that.
But like, I always discount it when leftists say, our politics is only about being nice, because it's not. Like, they always use emotive and fairly kind of surface level arguments when trying to put their view across. Like, all we want is for people to be respected. All we want is for nobody to go hungry. All we want is for equality for all. But when you actually start to dig down into it and you actually see what it is they're really talking about and what they're proposing, that's when you get problems. But
They are absolutely full of shit when they talk about respect and treating people nicely and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the people that say that are the most abusive and awful people on the planet.
yeah.
You're all wrong. It's all just healthcare, please.
Healthcare, please. I don't know.
God.
For some of the people I've seen saying that, it's like, put the fork down, please. Who will pay for my healthcare? It's like Boogie. It's like, remember though, Boogie, who's going to pay for it?
What?
Oh, that was funny.
Oh, Boogie.
Who's going to pay for my healthcare, I say, as I pour a Mountain Dew and Dorito smoothie down my throat. Who's going to pay for it? Fucking Christ. I think the only other point I want to make on this subject is something I've talked about before, which is a lot of the language games and gatekeeping from the left is very like class discriminatory as well. If someone does not have an academic background in their specific social justice subject area, they automatically get labeled a bigot for using normal language.
Yes.
I would say that is incredibly classist and elitist. It's like laughing at the pause for not using the right salad fork. It's the language equivalent of that.
Yes.
And generally that's how I try and turn this around on people. It's quite interesting to do it and watch them kind of stutter and fail when you bring up the fact that what they are doing is essentially being classist.
It's the classic Mott and Bailey. That's all it is.
Well, it kind of goes back to Orwell again. I think it was a quote from Road to Wigan Pier, where that the socialists don't really love the working class. They actually hate them, because what they want to do is just tell them how to command their lives. They can't really relate in any way at all. I mean, these are
it's not that they don't like the poor, they just hate the rich more.
Yeah. I mean, like leftism will often call itself, the politics of compassion, but it's entirely motivated based on who they hate.
Yes.
It's entirely motivated based on who they hate, but they can make it sound nice and fluffy by saying all we want is for people to not go hungry. But look at the methods in which they're going to use to like not make people go hungry. Or look at lockdown as another one. I mean, I know we're going to touch on this later on, but the people who have seen, especially particularly on the left, who are very vocal about lockdowns, are just saying, "Oh yeah, we'll just get all the rich people to pay for it." So we're just going to take everybody else's stuff, and we'll be fine. But they don't actually sit back and think, well, how are you going to achieve that? Oh well, we'll just take it by force. Like, okay, cool. So you're going to you peaceful, compassionate people are going to arrest, throw people in jail, maybe even murder them, because Gibbs.
Oh dear, there's someone in the chat who's mad because I made an abo joke last week.
Really?
And they're saying that, oh, you talk about classism, but you laugh at. I'm just like, okay, let me explain something to some people real quick. Okay, some things I say are serious, and other things I say are jokes. And people with functioning temporal lobes can generally differentiate the two. So if you get offended by a joke that I made and then try and use it to invalidate a serious point that I'm making, I think that just makes you look kind of stupid, to be honest.
Oh, the other thing is you're not
one of those things is serious, and one of those things is not. And we used to be able to live in a world where people understood that. But
Well, to be fair, Scrum, the demonetization happens either way, so...
Again, it's a lack of nuance. It's not my fault the lack of nuance has happened. I'm still
joking.
right.
I'm joking.
You're right. I don't want to get demonetized, so I ended up looking at some of the things you were referring to last week, and it was it was wow.
The don't sleep in the road stuff. The don't sleep in the road stuff and the don't sniff petrol stuff.
Well, I was referring specifically to the don't sniff petrol song.
It's the Australian equivalent of take the poo to the loo. Oh dear. Anyway, we are getting a bit off track here again.
Yeah. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
No.
I want to stay monetized, Scruff. I want to stay
I'm sorry.
monetized.
I'm sorry I take people down these hilarious yet offensive rabbit holes.
So we've talked about the preferences. Whilst we're kind of sticking on America, let's say we talk about Biden if we're allowed. If we're like I don't, because I'm going to be completely honest here. I genuinely don't even know if simply talking about this is going to get this stream taken down.
I think we can talk about it. Sorry, I think we can talk about it in general terms. I don't think it would be a good idea to show the story or the emails, or the image of Hunter Biden sleeping with a crack pipe.
Yeah.
Can we show
It's a pretty cool image, though.
What about memes based on that? Are they all right?
I don't know. This is the thing, because I wanted to show the actual story itself, but yeah, I don't think that we will be able to do that, and I
Describe
can't show...
the pictures in very great detail.
Well,
I will do. Okay, imagine a young, shabby-looking Jordan Peterson encased in white sheets, asleep with a crack pipe hanging out of his mouth. That's basically all you have to imagine.
So, so I actually tweeted a picture of this. I actually tweeted a picture of it not long ago. Guess how long it took for Twitter to take it down?
Instantly? Is it like
10
algorithmically?
minutes?
Pretty much 2 seconds.
Wow.
So they're just taking the pictures and they have it like in the algorithm, and if it appears, if it matches, they just axe it.
Yeah. So like I saw a few people talk about, I've been banned for sharing this picture, and so I thought I'm gonna give the, because all it was saying was like, accounts have been locked, and so I thought, like, I'm not gonna be like, I hopefully won't be properly suspended, but let's just see what happens. And so I tweeted a picture of it, just simply saying, like, Twitter is locking people's accounts for sharing a photo of Biden's son with a crack pipe. Let's see how long it takes. And then I got that message, like, pretty much instantly. Like, just the level of kind of lockdown that they've gone on this is, like, again, when you were looking at the redefining of preference as it being a slur over the last 24 hours, like, we're now seeing them, we're now seeing social media play damage control for Joe Biden. That's entirely what all of this is. Like, they've tried to make the argument that the photo or the these emails or discussion of the emails, it's a breach of confidentiality. But they didn't care about that when it was Trump's tax record, or the other argument that this unsubstantiated. But they didn't care about that when Trump was accused of calling Army veterans losers.
Or the famous Steele dossier, the piss dossier.
Yeah, the piss dossier.
Even the intelligence people were. Here you go. I've made a stream safe version of the Hunter Biden image.
Nice.
There you go.
Oh God.
Here you go. There's a nice stream safe version of the image for you.
Like, it's really scary. It's really scary how they've completely, like, it's genuinely at a point where something is in the news and I don't know whether simply talking about it is going to get this taken down. Like, I mean, we've seen this, like, crawl all across the year, especially when it comes to COVID. But now it's jumped from, we've got to make sure that we're not spreading misinformation about a deadly virus, to we got to make sure we're not spreading anything about the next president of the United States.
I can briefly go through in general terms what the story is, though.
Oh, yeah.
Hunter Biden stands accused of many misdeeds in relation to a company in the Ukraine called Burisma. The latest revelation is meant to show, or it claims to show, that Hunter Biden used his position to introduce one of the Burisma executives to his father. And there is also accusations that a Burisma executive was brought into a conference call on the instruction of Joe Biden, a conference call that involved President Obama. So he was essentially brought into like a presidential briefing call at the behest of Hunter Biden via Joe Biden. Those are the allegations, and they are backed up by the fact that this was taken from a laptop that was allegedly left at a Delaware repair shop and never recovered. And they backed this all up with personal pictures of Hunter and Joe Biden, some of which show him kind of just taking pictures of himself in bed. They're just like headshots. There's nothing, revealing anything like that. And that's kind of how they resubstantiate this. The accusation from the left is that this is all fake. But that can't be true because some of this has been backed up and corroborated. So the second accusation is this is fake information mixed in with real information. But again, the Biden camp has come out and denied that he did this in an official capacity. But that's really just word games. He could have also done it in an unofficial capacity. I know there's been some talk. Glenn Greenwald of The Intercept, I think, had a very, very good take. I'll try and get that up for you. But the writers over at The Intercept can be a bit schizophrenic with when they decide that they want to enforce their morals or not. But this time, I think everyone involved has realized that the censorship that's taken place, which I think we'll probably move on to after this, once I stop waffling, is a really, really bad thing. So while you guys talk about the actual fallout from this, I'll try and find those links.
Yeah. So, a lot of people are getting themselves suspended as a result of simply sharing this story. And that included, what's it? God damn it. I literally just hit a block. The press secretary? Have I got
the
that
White
right?
House press secretary.
Yes.
Was her name Kaylin or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, an official Trump Twitter campaign account.
It's Kayleigh McCann. I keep wanting to say McGuinness, but it's not. It's
I want to say McGuinness as well.
It's Kayleigh McCanny is
Right.
who is the current White House press secretary.
Yes, and
she had one of her tweets forcibly deleted and her account locked.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that seems to be what has been happening to everyone. Like there's sort of Team Trump, which had it done. Jack Posobiec, I've pronounced his name wrong. His account was locked as well. It is just wide scale, and whether or not this the actual story in the New York Post has any credibility to it, I don't know. I can't comment on that because we're not really discussing that. Nobody's really kind of discussing that anymore because the story, in trying to, kind of really drag the story down, the likes of Twitter and Facebook have effectively brought up the Streisand effect. And so now not only is everyone aware of this story, but the bigger story is how they're effectively meddling at this point. Because as I mentioned before, they've allowed fake news to be spread about Donald Trump for years. If they want to say that they are going, they're applying the rules, that it is something which they're not doing fairly. And they had absolutely no interest in doing it until a potentially incredibly damaging story comes up for their guy. And there's been, I believe, a former kind of community director for Twitter, somebody in a fairly prominent position. They recently joined the Biden campaign. So
they did?
Yeah.
They did, yes. And there's also an image going around of one of the people in charge of kind of Facebook enforcement, one of the VPs of Facebook, who is a former, I think, again, another former part of the Democratic Party campaign.
Yes.
He recently came out and said that although they hadn't even fact-checked it yet, that they were just suppressing the story.
They're just for fun, I guess.
Yeah. Twitter went one step further. I'm sure you can probably get the tweets up from Twitter's own timeline. I'm actually having trouble loading Twitter right now for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Come back to Twitter, Scrump. Come back.
I've told people that if Trump wins the 2020 election, I will come back to Twitter. So
I even put out the word for you.
I've also been told. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. I've also been told that that could be construed as attempting to meddle in a federal election, and may actually be a crime. But but I'm not sure how true that is. Sorry, what were you saying there, tail feature?
I didn't say anything.
All right, sorry.
Well, it can't be as bad as that woman back in 2016 who was offering blowjobs for votes for Hillary.
That didn't work out, did it?
Nope.
Well, that wasn't even an original idea. That wasn't even her original idea. I think there was someone in the Netherlands who years ago actually ran a campaign of like she would give blowjobs to everyone who kind of signed up to support her, and like she ended up getting like hundreds of thousands of followers. She ended up not doing it.
Well, hundreds of thousands.
What a surprise! What a surprise!
They just didn't suck hard enough. That's
so yeah. So let's see what Twitter's official response to this was. Let's see if it's actually kind of brought up here. It's just a lot of people. Yeah, Twitter allows Chinese Iranian state media while censoring Biden's story. Yep, that's true. They do that.
Well, if you look on, I linked a tweet from Glenn Greenwald, who is kind of one of the founders of a website called The Intercept, who, like I said, tends to sometimes do good work. I don't know. It's like I said, they're a bit back and forth because they do still have the whole Democrat bias, I think, themselves. But they're at least self-aware enough to know that this is an extremely bad idea.
Yeah.
I think the best thing said by Glenn Greenwald was, once you convince yourself you're fighting literally Hitler, as many, if not most, DC Democratic operatives, including the media, believe, then anything becomes not just justifiable, but mandatory, including censorship. And they're still going to think that way if they win. I mean, that is like a thin step away from saying, maybe you should vote for Trump because he will start curbing these things. Like, that is as close to tweeting at MAGA, I think, as Glenn Greenwald will ever get. But the point is, the Democrats are lockstep with this. The media is cheering it on. The so-called journalists are cheering it on. The Democratic Party is certainly cheering it on because it's carrying water for them.
Yeah.
And it's a clear choice between someone who will hold social media to account and possibly, antitrust, will actually trust bust them, or someone who will continue to use, censorship. This is one of, I think, the worst examples of social media censorship we've seen to this date. It is straight link blocking. You can't post the link. I know a lot of people have tried it, like you said. And if you do click on the link that's already been posted, you get a dangerous page warning, like you've clicked on malware.
Yeah.
It's trying to convince people that the page is unsafe.
Yes, and this isn't the first time I've seen Twitter do this. They did it a number of months ago for a story involving the Uyghur Muslims in China. It was a report on the treatment of some of the people in the camps, and they wouldn't allow that link to be shared either because that was deemed harmful. So they have done it in the past.
I do know that they do it for every single BitChute link. Doesn't matter what the video is.
Yes.
Yeah. It just seems to be. This is just what Twitter is now. It's a complete fucking shithole in every possible sense of the word. Right? They censor. The worst people are allowed to be their worst selves on Twitter, while good people generally get banned for literally nothing. It's completely politically the opposite of neutral in every possible way. And they'll tell you to your face that none of it's actually happening. Like, of the social media platforms, they are, I think, the worst by far.
Yeah. I think it's also because so many people have access to everything which is going on in it. At least in Facebook, it's a lot more personally curated, or at least my one is, because it's simply just people who I know in real life. Like, whereas Twitter, like, I have a much larger follower base. I probably interact with a lot more people who I don't personally know in there. So it's a lot more public. And I think that kind of makes it worse when they act in this way.
I will say that Twitter's fun, but it's there's nothing like good there. It's just like fun time wasting ramped up to 11.
It's a bit masochistic.
Yeah.
You gotta ride the tiger.
I will say though that like Whenever my Twitter shit posts bleed over into my real life stuff, it's always surreal, you know. Just because Twitter's strange.
It was always weird when every 3 months or so something I did would end up in a media outlet in some capacity. That was always funny.
How many times did that happen to you?
Oh, 6 or 7, maybe.
Bloody hell.
At least 5 within like mainstream media, like UK newspapers, Newsweek, and stuff like that. One of the ones that actually went furthest was not the infamous Callas incident, but the Donald Trump CNN 9/11 meme that I made that ended up.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Newspapers, because some like White House reporter stole the meme and reposted it, and then it was everywhere for a while.
I remember during the UK election, I did a variant with Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh dear. Yeah, you're right. This is the new reality. There's been a lot of talk with Section 230 and maybe FTC investigations with this, because this is the most extreme violation again of the platform neutrality we've seen. Because again, Section 230 it's not a blanket immunity. It's more of a defense, but it hasn't been used like that. I think the law might not even have to change it. The interpretation of the law might just be altered, or the egregious acts of platforms like Facebook and Twitter might have gone so far that they have essentially exempted themselves. I've seen some interesting chatter about the law maybe not even needed to change at this point, because if you can prove that a website has a terms of service but does not enforce it equally, then they are quite obviously a publisher and a curator and not a platform, no matter how restrictive their terms of service might be. If they don't enforce it equally to an extreme degree, they have essentially talked themselves out of those protections. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one. I will say it's going to be an interesting one if Trump wins. I think Trump is going to win, but it's going to. He essentially needs to win the House as well to do anything, because the House Democrats are never at this point going to let any of his bills go through. So
no. Well, I personally, will he even do anything? Do you think he will even actually lift a finger on this? Because people have been warning him about social media censorship for the longest time. I mean, they had that summit in the White House that I think Tim Pool was invited to, and people were openly discussing this with him and like advising him to go on Gab, and nothing changed with Trump. And then earlier this year with the whole Parler exodus, and some of Trump's tweets kind of being kept up, but like you weren't able to respond to them because they were it was considered encouraging violence, in response to violent looters. But like that was another big wake up. That should have been another big wake up point. But again, he didn't do it. He just did. He did absolutely nothing. And now, it's like more and he must be aware that more and more of his supporters are being removed from social media because the rules are not being applied fairly. He is aware. He has to be aware of this because he's not that stupid. And again, all he does is just say, "Oh, we've got to repeal Section 230." Like, okay, but are you actually going to do that? Because right now, I don't think that he is.
I think he's got the same problem he had with Antifa, actually, in that to not look like an authoritarian, to not look like he's the one doing the censorship, because the media will try and spin this no matter what he does.
Yeah.
I think he's letting things hit bottom. I think he's letting them hang themselves to make this a much more lasting change. And a lot of people say, why doesn't Trump just take action? But he's in a bit of a tight spot because no matter what action he takes will be spun. I think he has to essentially let people see it and have the cry be so loud from the general populace that no matter how the media spins it, they'll still be behind him. I think a lot of people said the same thing during like Portland riots and Seattle. And it's just like, no, if he actually did send in heavier federal forces, I think it would have gone badly for him. And I think if he did try and curtail social media before this election, it would have probably gone badly for him. I don't think people realize the political reality that the Republicans and Trump are faced with. They are in power in terms of governance, but all the institutions and media are against them. That's literally all they have. And the Democrats are desperate to get the government because then they hold the entire castle and can essentially set up a one-party state.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Scrum. I actually don't agree. I think, honestly, and I don't think anyone here is going to agree with me. I don't think any of the viewers are going to agree with me. But I think it's just not important enough. I think he's doing other things right now that are way more important than dealing with internet stuff. Simple as that.
That's probably true as well. There has been so many existential threats to the Trump administration at this point that it's hard to know what they're prioritizing because there's just so much to get done. Like, we haven't even got the wall yet.
No. The wall is still not here. I keep on forgetting about the wall.
Well, isn't it like half built at this point? Like, it's getting there.
It's mostly a fence, so really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more of a fence, but...
Build the fence.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same gravitas, does it?
Yeah, but like, I've seen pictures of it, and it's it's bars that are so high, and you can't just get through it. You can't just walk across anymore, right? Like, it's not hard to take down, but it's better than nothing. And it's like, okay, well, that will deter a lot.
So, does anyone have anything else that they want to add on the Biden and Twitter censorship debacle?
Vote Trump.
I will say
that Americans, guys, we probably shouldn't be saying that. Listen. They did not fight a revolutionary war to hear from 3 Brit bongs how to vote.
Fair point.
Who burned down the White House, Dev?
That would be us.
I'm gonna say, yeah. So anyway, what I will say is that this is just a massive own goal. I don't think social media can actually get away with censoring to this degree. I think all it does is wake people up. Things have always been bad. Things have always been biased, and I think I hate to be Mr. Accelerationist, but the harder we make Twitter and Facebook go into censorship, the faster they start collapsing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I do think that maybe not Trump, but if his successor is, if he's of the same mind, they'll get to the social media stuff eventually. But I'm not holding my breath.
Tucker 2024, come on, Tucker, please.
So
I want to see that face in every press conference. Just the "What are you talking about?" face.
So I think we might as well move on to the final seal of news, or at least the final seal of kind of serious, depressing news. Although this seal does have a really nice pumpkin spice latte to sip on whilst discussing.
Speaking of that, I am drinking a pumpkin spice latte.
I am jealous.
You're so good.
What are you, a 20-year-old white girl?
Is it a Starbucks one?
No, it's homemade. I just wanted to try the flavor, and it's not bad.
It's
not great, but
pumpkin spice latte is like one of my favorite things. Like, I absolutely love pumpkin flavored stuff. Like, I can make pumpkin pie and other pumpkin related things.
Listen. If anyone ever tells you that trans women aren't women, just tell them that, and they'll completely agree. You'll get them on something immediately.
Pumpkin pie is good. I've never been a fan of like the really fake pumpkin spice. I'm not a big fan of like the Starbucks one. But
I got you. I think I got you a Starbucks pumpkin spice latte last year.
You did.
You were kind of like.
Yeah, I was mainly just the whole. At that point it was peak meme. It was like peak Instagram white girl meme, and I just objected to it on principle. But I've had some pumpkin spice stuff that's not quite as bad as that. I think the Starbucks one just tastes cheap and fake, but
it's all Starbucks, man.
I've never had pumpkin spice anything, and I don't really plan to.
You haven't lived.
That's probably true, to be fair, but not for that reason.
Are pumpkins indigenous to Europe, or is it just a North American thing?
I think it's more of a North American thing. So you're over here. You only really see pumpkin in for around Halloween. Like, if you go into the shops, like that's the only time they stock it, and pumpkins are dirt cheap.
Well, yeah, I mean, because Halloween originated in the Celtic countries, we didn't have pumpkins, we had turnips to make our jack-o'-lanterns from.
Jack-o'-lantern turnips?
Yep, that's what we had to use before. Well, obviously that was before Halloween was what it is now, anyway. But yeah, we don't have pumpkins naturally here, so we had.
Well, you can get pumpkins year round at farmers markets here, except for the winter, obviously. But like, in terms of like around Halloween, they're fucking everywhere for like a month. But they are here year round mostly.
Yeah, we do. If you look hard enough, you can actually find them here most of the year as well.
But yeah, they're not exactly popular outside of Halloween. Apparently they're native to northeastern Mexico and the southern US.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Apparently, China actually produces the most pumpkins, though.
That's like Ireland produces the most amount of bananas or some stupid shit like that.
So a super chat through from Mitch with the £2. Thank you. Walruses deserve love. Is this dumping with Scrump? First of all, the walruses are great. Like, I generally love all pinnipeds, although sea lions are probably down towards the bottom because they can be assholes. But walruses,
they triggered everyone.
They're just. Yeah,
the assholes of the sea.
Yeah, like I always remember being at SeaWorld years ago, and I was trying to feed a seal a fish, and there's this little cute seal, and then there's this sea lion that kept on barging the little seal out of the way, and then started screaming at me.
The weak should fear the strong.
It is awful, and so since then I've kind of just thought like these guys are assholes. I much prefer the wholesome seal.
I saw some seals on holiday, didn't I, Rose?
You did, and you sent me a picture of them, and that might turn up later.
Oh, okay.
Dev, this probably is going to be like the least interesting bit for you.
Oh no, Dev can talk about the measures that are still in place in Canada as well. I don't know.
So. I mean, it's the big thing that's happening in the UK again, because it's obvious that this was going to be coming back in, although, like, I have since become a lot more pessimistic about what the future is going to be like. This on Monday, during, weekly, like, kind of meetings of woe, where, like, Boris will go out with Chris Whitty and normally somebody else, and they'll announce new measures to take away people's rights. And it's like every week this happens. Every week we can do less and less and less. And at this point, we've got this 3-tier system, which is basically bad, really bad, and really, really bad. And Liverpool has been put into the worst one, which is kind of weird because the mayor of Liverpool was calling for like a complete lockdown for ages, and now he's got it because it was given to him by the Tories. He's now like flipping out against it. So you just know that all of that is just related to party politics and nothing else. But in fact, a lot of the idea on lockdown from a lot of MPs does seem to be related to party politics. Like you had the Greater Manchester like mayor and like the councillors who have come out against a local lockdown there, but support a nationwide lockdown, which is dumb.
It's for those who are confused, I'm also confused. Basically, what's happened is Boris said no second lockdown, then essentially announced a second lockdown. We've had more measures nationwide 2 weeks ago, which don't make any sense. And now we've got this quote-unquote tiered system. The tier 1 is just the extra things that were announced 2 weeks ago. Tier 2 is even worse. And by the way, most of the countries now have been put onto tier 2. So essentially within 2 weeks, we've had 2 tightenings of a new lockdown. And tier 3 is basically full lockdown again. And Liverpool's been put in that, and they're trying to put Greater Manchester in that as well. Yeah. And I think over the next 2 weeks, every week, I think we'll see a new region be put in tier 3. Up until we reach Christmas, and I think by Christmas, everywhere will be in tier 3, essentially a new second lockdown. And that's what they're trying to stop people protesting it, basically. What they're trying to do is they're trying to do it slowly. They're trying to do it in such a slow and confusing way that by the time people are locked down again, they don't realize it. It is deliberately obfuscating it. I can't even say that word today. deliberately hiding it, and it's again, it's very clear what their intention is. It's very clear that they are not letting the numbers lead it; they are letting policy decisions lead it, because the numbers have been all over the place. They're saying hospitalizations are up, but the statistics don't bear that out. The deaths haven't materialized yet. I think that's what they were waiting for to announce a second lockdown. But since they haven't done, what they're doing is they're using, once again, the case numbers, and they're using that to justify lockdown 2 electric boogaloo. And that's what this is. I don't let anyone tell you that isn't what this is. And it is, again, very clear that they are looking for excuses to lock people down rather than looking for a way to reopen the economy.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the actual plan is. I don't know if they are lockstep with the whole UN, Agenda 2030 kind of Great Reset stuff.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them have been using.
Yeah,
well, a lot of these people have been using "Build Back Better." The amount of people who use that exact phrase, because Biden was called out for using it after Boris used it first, but you have lots of leaders all over the world either using that phrase in speeches, or they're using it as part of their own propaganda. It's an incredibly common phrase, and that everyone seems to be saying it, and that's kind of that kind of gets a little bit too into the conspiracy side of things, especially with a lot of discussion.
It's not a conspiracy though, because they're extremely open with it.
I know.
But Biden's well-known. He's a well-known plagiarist, because this isn't his first rodeo running for president. He ran for president at some point.
It's like the late 80s, I think it was.
Yeah, and he stole a speech almost word for word from Neil Kinnock. So this isn't anything new.
Imagine being so desperate you have to steal a speech from Neil Kinnock.
Exactly. Does Dev even know who Neil Kinnock is?
No fucking clue.
He was the Labour leader during the Thatcher era, so in the 80s. He was a complete nobody, basically.
Yeah, sounds like it. Wasn't Thatcher mostly successful? I know the left disagrees, but she's known for a reason.
She was in power for over 10 years as well, so she did something right. And that means a lot coming from a Scottish person.
Well, speaking of Scotland, how are things there? Because I know Nicola Sturgeon's been trying to essentially say that they need more lockdown than the rest of the UK. A lot of the regional governments have been competing to have more lockdown.
I know. The SNP, for example, and I suppose Plaid Cymru as well, to an extent, their policy is basically whatever the Tories say, we'll either do it tenfold or we'll do the opposite. So when it comes to the likes of lockdown, we'll do that tenfold. And the whole 3-tiered system, it was funny because on the news that was saying, Nicola Sturgeon is looking at a 3-tiered system herself. You just know it's going to be exactly the same thing, but instead of medium high and very high, it's going to be I don't know, fucked, very fucked, oh shit, we're dead. And it's gonna it's just going to be the same, exactly the same system, but with slightly different wording. That's basically what it's going to be.
Well, she has closed the pubs without closing the pubs, because she's saying that essentially it's like a temperance movement thing. That in Scotland they're saying you can't serve alcohol indoors anymore.
Pretty much, yeah. So there's a lot of places that are saying, well, we're essentially a cafe who serves alcohol sometimes, or a restaurant that serves alcohol. And they're like, well, you can't do that unless it's outdoors. It's like, what?
I'm surprised that Scotland, of all places, is doing that.
Well,
are you guys as drunk as the Russians?
Well, pretty much, yeah. So, all this is going to mean is that people are just going to get drunk at home a lot more and have parties at home.
So, sorry, just whilst we're kind of talking about the Celtic nations, I just wanted to highlight what the leader of Welsh Labour, Mark Drayford, said regarding new lockdowns that are basically they've banned anyone from England travelling into Wales if they're in a tier 3 area. And this is like one of the most pathetic quotes, like just showing that he has no faith in the Welsh people. When they arrive in the far west of Wales, I am afraid they will meet a local population that are fearful, that are anxious, and are on the lookout for people who shouldn't be in those areas. Like, he's basically just saying, like, that Welsh are, like, paranoid wimps. Like, there's absolutely no national pride there. You're talking about, like, your own people as being fearful. It seems
fearful of the English.
Yeah. Well, that's
well, you should be.
They're a bunch of snitching wimps, yeah. It's all of this though seems to be, and I don't think we should lose sight of this. It is very much preparatory for people to just accept authority from on high on a weekly basis. That we are being conditioned to accept the removal of basic rights arbitrarily, without votes of parliament, without acts of parliament, without democratic consultation, on a weekly basis. This is unprecedented. In a peacetime nation, this is unprecedented. It's not happened in the modern era. It's the biggest civil restriction since World War II. And it's happening really without the consent of Parliament and without the consent of the people. It feels like almost like a practice run for how much a government can decree and get away with.
Yeah.
They are very gleeful in this. And even if there was more of a threat from the virus, even if it was a more deadly virus, I think the methods they've taken and the route they've taken in not allowing parliamentary oversight here in the UK is dangerous. That'd be dangerous during any kind of pandemic.
Yeah.
And just issuing these rules and passing them essentially into law without any kind of checks and balances is very disturbing. And I don't know why more people can't see how disturbing that is, both in Europe and the US and the rest of the world. That a governor or a prime minister or a senator or anyone can just say, these are the rules now, and then the police will enforce it, is not how democracies work. It is not how democracies have worked for the past 50 years. And I don't understand why people are just blindly accepting this.
Like, I just really don't want a second lockdown. Like, I struggled a lot with the first one. Like, I struggled immensely, and it's only kind of since I've been able to pull myself out of the situation I was in, I can actually look back and realize how bad it got. And I think that a lot of the people who really champion lockdown and all these lockdown initiatives, like, they must really, really have no idea what it's like to be someone who's not in a particularly good position and lose their liberty. And I put a lot of my situation down to being in London in a noisy flat where you can't get you have no outdoor space, it's cramped. And these things really, really impact you on a personal level when you're separated from everyone. You can't go out without fear of being, chastised by the police for not exercising properly or going to the shops too many times. And the fact that a lot of these lockdown people are the same ones who try and proclaim that they are the compassionate ones, that they are the ones who are looking out for the rest of society, because they're the ones who really care about the vulnerable, but they completely ignore the amount of people who have had to forego medical treatment, including a lot of people for cancer. I mean, we're walking into like widespread cancer deaths that if we're not careful could dramatically overlap, take over COVID deaths because of how common cancer is, but it's mostly treatable provided you get the treatment at the right time. And I've been trying to register with NHS in my new area, and that's a massive pain because clinics aren't really seeing people at the moment. So
sorry. So I was going to say, these are also the people that think that the Tories are big bad Nazis and stuff, and yet they're the ones saying, please take more of my freedoms away.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a bit I don't get.
Yeah, and going back to what I said earlier about the various kind of Labour people who are, when it comes to lockdowns. Like, I was starting to gain a little bit of respect for Keir Starmer when he challenged the government about how, where's the evidence to support this 10 p.m. curfew? That is, outlets, bars, restaurants have to be shut at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. at the dot. Any later than that, and you can find yourself with £1,000 fine. And that happened to a burger shop in North London.
Yeah. They were so stringent that they said orders made before 10 p.m. can't be fulfilled after 10 p.m. So if you've got a queue in the shop, you have to shut the shop with a queue there.
Yep, and I think that this particular store sold a burger at 10 p.m. They handed the burger to the hungry customer at 4 minutes past 10, and they got £1,000 fine for it. And even in Liverpool today, there was a gym which received a £1,000 fine for being open. A lot of gym owners in Liverpool are speaking out against the lockdowns there, and this guy was just, they had about 6 or 7 fully kitted up police officers coming to
they sent in-armed police to a gym. Yes.
Yeah, that seems to be fine. Again, these are the same police. Okay, maybe not so much. It's a different police force, but this is still police in the UK. They found the time to investigate Darren Grimes and David Starkey for a podcast months ago. But they won't invest. When it comes to violent crime, they're not really there. But then again, when someone's operating a gym, you got to really show your force there. But kind of going back to what my point is, a lot of people's positions on lockdown, especially of the Labour Party, they're very confusing because it's entirely done on political lines. So, Starmer was questioning the 10 p.m. curfew, but now he doesn't really kind of request any evidence of anything except for Sage say so. That's kind of his line now. So now Sage, now it's come out that Sage recommends a 2-week lockdown. That's what he's calling for. And you have these various Labour mayors who are against lockdowns in their own area, but they support a nationwide lockdown. It seems to be, well, we don't support this lockdown because the Tories called for it, but we will support this lockdown because Labour called for it. When they're the same thing. And they're exactly the same thing.
Sorry about all the Britishness here, Dad, but I would ask, I don't know, how is Canada doing with all this?
Well, I will say straight up. I'll say straight up that I have no clue, and for 2 reasons. One is that, I've already had coronavirus, so I kind of consider it done. And 2, even if I hadn't, I'm not following any lockdown protocol anyway. I'm just doing things as I normally do them. And I've been bothered a few times in shops, but I don't care. I just walk away. I go out to the same places that I've always gone out to in the same ways, and nothing's changed. Now I'm also lucky though. Yeah, I'm lucky because I'm living in a place that has basically no coronavirus. Okay, hold on. Let me rephrase, because there's cases here. But the cases at this point are coming out of nowhere. It's I suddenly have coronavirus. Why? I don't know. Did you go anywhere? Yeah, I went all over town. But basically, there's no way to trace coronavirus anymore in this place. We're finding it on. We're finding like samples of the virus on frozen food in the grocery store. It's now endemic. Coronavirus is not going anywhere. We cannot pretend like we can control this at this point. It's like trying to control a seasonal flu. It's just gonna stay with us, and that's how it is. And I'm behaving that way.
There's been a lot of talk, though. The one thing I have kept an eye on in Canada, have you been looking at all this UBI talk?
I don't think it'll happen, frankly. Because before the virus, there was an attempt at UBI, and then the Conservative government here in Ontario got basically stopped the test. Because, one, they're Conservatives, and they're not going to go down that route. But also because it wasn't showing any promise. So I don't think that the UBI thing's happening here. However, that being said, in much the same way as it sounds like is going on in the UK, Doug Ford, our premier, he's done an okay job at doing what government can do during this kind of situation. but he's talking about a second lockdown, like everyone's talking about a second lockdown, and it's like, shut the fuck up. Simple as that. I didn't even listen to the first lockdown. I'm not going to listen to the second one. Maybe I just sound like stubborn, but I don't care.
Well, there's another angle to this that I wanted to bring up that was actually brought to my attention today. They
canceled Thanksgiving, apparently. The government said no one can celebrate Thanksgiving, but everyone still did. Like, no one's listening to the lockdowns here anymore. I think that is like a big takeaway, is that people are like, because there's not so much government force behind it, it's like government recommendation. Nobody's listening anymore. Everyone's acting like I was 6 months ago. They're just doing whatever the fuck they want. And you have people on the left here who are losing their goddamn minds about it, but the average person just does not care. Sorry, Scump.
I was going to say, there was one more aspect of the coronavirus stuff that was brought to my attention today, which is Forbes 2 days ago deleted an article from 2010 that they put out, but it's still available, obviously, on Web Archive. And it's entitled, rather spicily, "Why the World Health Organization Faked a Pandemic." So you can kind of see why they removed it.
Can you link that somewhere, Scott?
Yeah,
so you can take a look at it.
Yes.
I already did.
Did you?
But I will relink it. Yes, it's a bit further up if you scroll. There's a picture of a pig there.
Oh, it's that one.
Yes, it is.
There we go. Why the WHO faked a pandemic?
If you go to Forbes' website now with the non-archive link, you'll get an error. But this page was up as recently as 2 days ago. But this is a reference to the 2010 swine flu scare, which is kind of a repeat of the bird flu scare. And there's a huge amount of parallels here between their attempted response and what's happened now. What happened is they declared a pandemic very, very early on. They started talking about lockdowns, but they also, very interestingly, and it's amazing the difference between Forbes 10 years ago and Forbes now, because there's a paragraph here which sounds like it would be from someone like the Federalist now. To quote Forbes. But there's more than bureaucratic self-interest at work here. Bizarrely enough, the World Health Organization has also exploited this phony pandemic to push a hard-left agenda. In a September speech, the World Health Organization Director General Chan said ministers of health should take advantage of the devastating impact swine flu will have on poorer nations to get the message out that changes in the function of the global economy are needed to redistribute wealth on the basis of values like community, solidarity, equity, and social justice.
And that's all the way from 2010.
Like I said, it's a lot of people say, this big a planned response is a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory. They've had these canned responses with political agendas for decades. This is essentially what the World Health Organization does to justify its existence. A lot of the reason they were accused, they were looked into this by the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. They were looked into this by a whole lot of people who said that they had essentially faked a pandemic and tried to use it to bolster their own position. That was the aggregate opinion.
In their defense, Scrump, there was like 63 million people infected by swine flu.
There was, but the argument here was that they had massively overstated the deadliness of the disease. How familiar does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds pretty familiar.
Basically, the thing is, the consensus back then was this was basically just like a bad seasonal flu.
Well, that is what coronavirus is.
It is, and again, it's... Guess what? Bad seasonal flus kill fucking old people. Again, I will keep stating it. Average age of COVID death, 82 in both the US and the UK. Beyond life expectancy. This is ridiculous, the response.
Dude. I've been compiling various like medical sources for my return, because once I get monetization back, I'm releasing a giant COVID video. And one of the sources I have is the listing of flu deaths. No, not deaths, sorry. Flu cases in Ontario. So basically, if you have a flu that's bad enough that you go to the doctor, it's recorded, okay? And usually it's around 10,000 in Ontario. Guess how many actual flu cases were recorded last spring? Just guess how many?
6,000?
2.
Jesus, what?
Yeah. So usually it's around 10,000. This year it was 2. What do you
Wow.
think all those cases were recorded as instead?
COVID.
COVID cases.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ah.
Well, over here they're going to start mixing COVID and flu. I think Public Health England actually they didn't like do like a big announcement for it, but it is in one of their kind of weekly updates that like from now on we're going to be showing figures for COVID and seasonal flu, which is interesting, especially as it's now the numbers are now rising over here and we are in flu season, and so it's going to be interesting the amount of people who interestingly don't get flu, but everyone seems to get COVID.
Yeah.
Well, if you die in a car crash, you get COVID as well. So.
That's true.
Well, what's interesting though is like if you have asymptomatic coronavirus and then you catch a flu and you're sneezing everywhere and you get tested, it'll be recorded as coronavirus.
Yeah.
So that's basically what's happening there. Yeah.
So does anyone have anything else that they want to add to COVID lockdowns? Because there's one more story that I want to touch on real quick. Because Scrumpy posted it in the chat earlier.
Oh, that's my good news.
That is the good news.
The C-SPAN one, yeah.
Yes,
It's finally some consequences.
Yeah. So why do we talk about that? Because I think there's actually a bit to kind of unpack with this. So this is the good news.
Yes, this is the good news this week. I'll go over it quickly because we're kind of getting towards the end here. But the C-SPAN moderator for the failed second debate, the second debate that a lot of the Democrats are saying Trump pulled out of, but essentially the second debate collapsed because of this guy. It's Steve Scully, who was the supposedly unbiased moderator for the debate. If you remember, he got caught and raised some eyebrows for atting a very, very virulent anti-Trump person asking for advice on how to respond to Trump. They also outed a lot of his past tweets and comments about the fact that he hated Trump, and he was supposed to moderate this debate.
I think he had photos with Biden as well.
He did. He was actually a former Biden intern. Former Democratic intern. I don't know if it was actually under Biden. But it's turned out now, his main excuse was that his account was hacked. Very specifically, for a very specific thing. But he's now admitted that he lied about his Twitter being hacked, and C-SPAN has suspended him indefinitely. So, it seems that Trump was vindicated yet again. with all of this. But yeah, there's lots to unpack here if you want to go over the wider story there, Rose.
Yeah, so this was kind of weird because it was around this time that they were trying to do the debate virtually as well. Like they wanted, because this was the debate that they wanted to do entirely, like this virtual thing where like Trump had already said that he wasn't willing to do it. And so it did kind of look like the reason why it didn't go ahead was simply because of them wanting to change it to a digital format. So I'm wondering how much these two things intersect with each other. Like the blatant bias of the supposed moderator and this move to a digital setting. Like the whole move to a digital setting felt like a setup for Trump anyway. Because if he goes ahead with it, then you just know that Biden's going to have teleprompter. He's going to have people there to, kind of curate his own answers for him. It's completely different to standing up on a stage right in front of your opponent.
Sorry, I have some breaking news. The Team Trump account has now been locked.
Again?
Again.
What did they do this time?
Apparently it's about the Biden story.
Again?
Yep.
Jesus Christ, they got locked for that. Like, they got locked for that yesterday. I think they were one of the first ones.
They've got locked for it again, apparently.
Oh, my God. God damn it. Like, yeah. What else can I say, really? It's just, yeah. Like, the state of current fucking year. Like, is this open suppression of one very specific story. So, does anyone have...
You're saying about So you're saying about the Steve Scully stuff there. I kind of derailed your comment.
No, I was just wondering, like whether that the kind of the link between the bias of Scully and the setup for it being digital, and just what your thoughts on that could be.
Yeah, I think Trump was right to demand it be an in-person debate. I think what they were doing is they were moving the goalpost unilaterally. They were bringing in an obviously biased moderator, and they were attempting to make a more friendly environment to Biden, because I think a lot of the behind-the-scenes metrics show that Biden lost the first debate, and they are very scared about him facing Trump again. I don't know. What do you think about this, Deb?
Well, I decided to take a quick peek. And as it turns out, there is a list of people who have been vouching for Steve Scully.
Oh yeah,
a bunch of check marks and journalists, and and they're like, we shouldn't cancel this guy. This is bad cancel culture, guys. Like, even though he actually did something pretty seriously wrong, this is not like a Me Too moment. This is, you know what I mean. However, probably most tellingly is Frank Fahrenkopf, if you know who that is. He covered for Scully. He's the chair of the Commission for Presidential Debates. So I think the entire debate structure at this point is in question.
Yes, it is. Especially because he's now had to admit that he lied. There's a whole bunch of people like.
Also, he Steve Scully lied to the FBI when they asked him about it.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, you don't want to lie to the feds.
That's kind of that is good news.
Yeah, you don't want three or four people, in sunglasses and black suits showing up to your house in the middle of the night to take you away.
I don't think there will be a third debate. I think the commission will find a way to derail it. They'll do the whole digital only thing again. They'll demand Trump have the ability to have his mic cut off again. They'll do all that. They'll deliberately tank the third debate, I think, because if Trump gets into a debate after this and is able to say, well, we caught the previous moderator colluding with the opposition, then lying about it to the FBI, that's going to be an incredibly bad look, especially with the amount of people that have been watching them.
That plus the Hunter Biden stuff, like everything. Yeah. If Trump has a chance to speak to Joe Biden directly face to face, he will slaughter him.
It will be an absolute bloodbath, and I think that they are going to prevent that no matter what happens. They can't let that happen. It will be ridiculously bad for Biden.
It's really weird that Trump really is the underdog in this.
Essentially,
he's such the underdog, because this is why I am genuinely, part of me does think that Trump is going to win, but with everything, I've never seen like so many kind of institutions dead set against one man. I've never seen anything like this, and so how, it shouldn't really come as a shock if he loses, simply because even the bloody moderators, even the presidential debates, who have to be completely neutral, even they have been infected with TDS. So which other institutions have been? I mean, we know that it's incredibly common, but there's going to be other ones that will have some sort of influence over this election, and they will have anti-Trump activists in them. I don't see how this is going to be a fair election.
The thing is,
I think what should happen? Trump should actually take up Joe Rogan on that invitation. He should just be like, listen, I'm going to be in Joe Rogan's studio on this day, and Biden, if you want to show up, you show up, and we'll talk about it. And that's what you should do. And Biden's not going to show up, and that'll basically it'll basically show everyone what Biden kind of is like and why he can't confront Trump. If it turns out that the entire structure of the debates is corrupted at this point, sidestep them. Go to Joe Rogan. I think you should do that. Well, I
think the Democrats and a lot of other checkmarks on Twitter have already set themselves up to fail today with the whole boycott NBC thing. again, there's too many stories to cover this week, but NBC is hosting a town hall with Trump at the same time that Biden's doing his town hall. It's like a pseudo debate kind of thing. They're trying to have them make points at the same time. But a lot of the check marks are furious about this because NBC is platforming a fascist and they'll never watch NBC ever again. And the thing is, everybody knows that the ratings for Trump's town hall appearance are going to blow Biden's numbers out of the water. It is going to be embarrassing when the ratings come out. In fact, wouldn't surprise me if they tried to censor the ratings because they're going to be so bad.
Yeah.
I don't understand with so little time before the election why they've set themselves up to fail so many times now.
Well, there was what was it? Was Trump on, was it Rush Limbaugh's show recently? Whose show was it?
Rush Limbaugh.
Yes, it was.
It was
Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, so he goes on this podcast, and they have 50 million people watching it.
Yeah.
Did you see those numbers?
Yeah.
Fucking incredible, dude. Like, they're 50 million. I have not seen... Man, can you think of any kind of like live stream or podcast that's gotten 50 million?
Maybe
viewers?
like the royal wedding.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of that's comparable to it, is like a coronation.
Yeah, like I think if Trump continues to do that sort of thing, just sidesteps these corrupt power structures and just gets his message out through alternative avenues, it will probably be better for his campaign in the long run.
Yeah. Maybe we could get him on seal of approval. Speak to the real people.
Other cartel streams are available.
But I do think he should go on Joe Rogan. That would basically be like the nail in the coffin for Biden's campaign, because either he'd show up and get slaughtered, or he wouldn't, and then it would be obvious why.
Yeah.
You know?
It's amazing. Like, yeah, I even see the link there. NBC faces backlash after agreeing to Trump town hall. Jesus. Oh. Anyway, like, it's about to turn into bad news then, where we got to focus on the good news and we got to focus on the, the happy things. And so we've got to focus on this week's Seal of the Week. Seal of the Week. And so there's... And so let me just hide this because I'm still figuring out how to do the thing on this. Because this was sent to me in a direct message.
Starting to sound like Sargon here.
So this is the Seal of the Week.
Yes. While we're finding that though, Mitch makes a good point that it would also make Spotify censor him, which would make it an even bigger Streisand effect, because it would make Spotify melt down as well. God, that'd be funny. I think you're right. He should definitely do that. He should just go on Joe Rogan, and because Biden won't show up, he should just flex on him for being a coward the whole time. That'd be hilarious.
Oh, did you guys see this morning that Trump retweeted Styx?
Yes, I did. The spoon clank heard around the world. Yes.
That's excellent.
Can we get some spoons and coffee cups in the chat, please?
Unironically, Styx has become my favorite YouTuber.
He's great. I've liked Styx for a long time.
I've watched pretty much all of his videos, like as one of the first things I do in the morning for about a year now.
So this is the Seals of the Week. So Tailed, why don't you tell us about these Seals of the Week?
I was at Loch Fleet, which is up in the northeast of Scotland, and I just happened to be driving down this road, and I looked over to my left, and I just saw these things in the distance. And I thought, what are those things over there? It's a bit strange. And yeah, there was just a whole load of seals just chilling out on this little sandbank. So I immediately pulled over and took a picture and sent it to Rose.
They are.
So that's it.
So now I think it's the time to vote on who you think gets this week's Seal of Approval. So there's a link to the straw poll in the description. So go and click on that and vote for who you think should win. And whilst we go over that, I've got some super chats to read out. So there's £10 from Charity Rivers, so thank you, love. Not only has Chippy Tits Anderson supported the restrictions for ages, that's the mayor of Liverpool, but Liverpool Echo disgraceful excuse for a local paper has parroted him, called us all selfish, and smeared all dissent for months. Doesn't surprise me that they would do that. I'd actually be interested in knowing what the likes of the Echo said about the big party that people had in the street before Liverpool went into Tier 3. Like, there was a video of loads of, I think there might have been like students or just general young people having this like giant street party just before like the lockdown measures were brought in. There were people angry about it on social media, but I just couldn't blame them for doing it. Like, you know, they're in a shit situation. Let them have fun.
I think we might start seeing Liverpool pulling together, because Liverpool feels very hard done by. They feel like they're being punished for that.
Yeah.
Which I think they are. I think they are blatantly being punished for defying lockdown.
Yes.
We may end up with Liverpool becoming the first hotspot of anti-lockdown civil unrest if this continues.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Yiz the Eunuch with $2. At least no one has died of old age since March. that is pretty true.
That is true.
And Mitch with £2. Are you sniffing, son?
Hunter Biden is.
Banned.
He's looking on a crack pipe, but god damn it. Like I said, they can't have the third debate because Trump will just make fun of Hunter Biden's crack pipe. He will. He will go there. We know he will, and it will be glorious. But it will be denied us, and now I am sad.
I think I'm going to have to do a parody song that's going to be Heaven is a Crack Pipe. And it's...
Wicca heaven. Yeah. Yes.
So let's see. So we'll give it another minute for the results. So let a few more votes come through.
Heaven is a crack pipe. Repost it in chat as well if you can, because I find that a lot of people have a hard time. I don't know why they seem to have a hard time doing it, but
yeah, let me just quickly post it there.
But I've not seen seals for a while. Last time I saw seals, actually I was in Scotland, but that was many years ago. I need to go to SeaWorld or something again.
I'm still I tried to get to like this when I was back in North Wales. I tried to go to the real, I think it's called the Sea Aquarium, where they have a thing called Seal Cove, where they have lots of seals, but it was always sold out because people, which is good because that means that people were going to see the seals, which is very important. So let's see if we got any more votes. Okay, great. Okay, so
I lost by far.
Oh, thanks for
Despite
spoiling
the image of seals.
So, can I have a drum roll, Scrump? The winner is Dev, and his second win, but his first win actually being here.
Wait, I won the one where I wasn't even present?
Yes.
Yeah. The people voted for you for the meme. You won by a landslide when you weren't here, dude. It wasn't even close. We were going back and forth there for a bit, I will say, but
Thanks, everyone.
You got your seal of approval.
You don't actually get anything.
I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat the seal.
No.
Not allowed.
I'm allowed to. I'm 1/16th native. It's part of my cultural heritage.
Fine, we'll give you a chocolate trophy, like a chocolate seal. You can eat that one, you fat bastard.
Right.
Gotta stay on that keto.
So,
Hey! Seal blubber is very keto.
Oof.
This is mean. Anyway, I've got to. This is like a nice kind of goodbye picture. Look at that. I love this picture. It's of just two seals watching the sunset. Because it's it's the end of the stream. We've all had fun, I hope. So
We've had, yes, fun has been had.
fun and games and locks. So does anyone have anything they would like to shell?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't make money on it anymore, so thanks, Grump.
It'll come back.
And
Subscribe to my second channel. I'm trying to get that monetized. I'm trying to get up to the.
Oh, look at this guy with his 2 monetized channels.
No, no. I mean, my main channel did get remonetized, but every video individually has been demonetized now, and for some reason I still can't get super chats. So, monetized in name only, it seems. So I'm trying to get the second channel up to the threshold.
so I want to apologize for there not being a new video this week. But I had been a bit kind of... Basically, I just needed a break for a week, I'll be completely honest.
We have moved quite recently, so you've been very busy.
Yeah, I've been busy with a lot of personal life stuff. Like I'm finally back in work after being on a sabbatical for about 3 months, so I'm still kind of adjusting to that. But there'll be a new video next week. But yeah, Seal of Approval will be back next Wednesday at the usual time. But until then, thanks everyone for tuning in, and thank you for everyone who sent in super chats and everyone who subscribed. And I saw that I got a new member for the channel as well, Sean Lenkus. Thank you for becoming a member. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you all next week.